Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners on January 19th, 2023. We will begin our meeting with an invocation from Bruce Bettinger. He's River to the Nations Ministries, and it'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice Chair Wisenhunt. And please stand if you are able.
Our Heavenly Father, as the scripture says, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach for any people. Help us to live up to our ideals of freedom and justice for all. Enable us to continue to work together, as our founder said, toward a more perfect union. We thank you for each member of the Board of Commissioners and for their dedicated service to our community. May you continue to bless and guide them in all they do. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Bettinger. Thank you. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public's session portion of the meeting, you may do so by calling 336-422-1200, and you'll be placed on hold until the public session begins. And that number again, if you're participating remotely, want to call in 336-422-1200. And those of you that are here in the audience who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, please fill out a speaker card and return it to our clerk over here. You may have already done that, but you can actually still complete that if you would like to. Excuse me. Every regular meeting, we have an update from our health director, Joshua Swift, public health director, and he's going to give us a COVID-19 update. I see perhaps he has not given us a COVID-19 update. Come on up.
Good afternoon, County Commissioners. I'm Sharita Sutton, one of the Assistant Health Directors, standing in the place for Mr. Swift on today. Our COVID update. We are currently, our last 14 days, we've seen a 38% increase in cases, along with a 17% increase in deaths related to COVID in the last 7.
I'm just going to make sure our microphone's in good shape here.
Thank you. In the last 14 days, there's been a 17% increase in the deaths. We've also have 35 Forsyth County residents that has been hospitalized within those 14 days as well. As you look at our graph, you will see where we have had a spike since over the holidays. Probably can't see those numbers, but definitely during the holidays there was definitely a spike, and we can see just a slight decline if we look at the last 14 days as well. Our projected COVID cases in North Carolina, this is a graph that you can look at those vaccine coverages, the daily infections. And again, you see the spikes really happen through those holidays, during those holiday time periods. We are in a high, our COVID community level is high, which CDC means, which means it's recommended that we wear a mask in indoor public settings. But what does that mean? Also, these are some criteria when we're talking about having the high level, which is orange, to wear the mask. Also, to consider self-testing. So we do at the health department, as also in the libraries, we do provide free take-home tests. So we do recommend to do your self-testing. Stay up to date with the vaccines. We currently provide the vaccines at the health department 5 days a week to avoid people who may be suspected or confirmed cases. And if you do have COVID, we also continue to encourage that isolation so we can decrease the spread of that. And then also we have our COVID vaccine hours. Like I said, we're 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Monday through Wednesday, 9 to 4:30. Thursday, we have extended hours for individuals, those non-traditional hours. They can come in until 7:30 p.m., along with Friday from 9 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. Thank you, and any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. First item on the agenda today is a public hearing on the petition to close Roller Ridge Road. First speaker on the public hearing is going to be Matthew Hamby, addressing the coordinator of MAP Forsyth. And Mr. Hamby, how about come forward and share the request?
Good afternoon. So the county was approached by Mr. Daniel Fritz for the closing of Roller Ridge Road. Roller Ridge Road was recorded in Plat Book 44, page 87, on January 25th, 2002, as part of Louisville Trails subdivision. Here you can see a little bit better view of where Roller Ridge Road was recorded between lots 1 and 2, and this road does not serve as anyone's access, and no one is addressed off of this road. Here's a slightly better view from our 2018 ortho imagery, and you can see that it falls inside the unincorporated area of Forsyth County. Here's a slightly more zoomed out view showing that the parcel to the east has access from Dab Road. The town of Louisville has waived the connectivity requirement that they typically have for subdivisions. We have this letter provided by the interim town manager releasing that property and waiving that and waiving any interest that they had in it. They waived the interest due to the extreme topology of that area. Here you can see with 10-foot contour lines, Roller Ridge Road steeply falls off, and there's significant streams also in that area. I can try to answer any questions you may have about this closing.
Any questions for Mr. Hamby? All righty, thank you. This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of this request and up to 15 minutes to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this request? Yep, come right up. You don't need to for this. Just please come up and give us your name and address, and go right ahead and share it.
My name is Robert Shealy. I live on Roller Mill Drive that intersects with this, and we always walk our dog down that street and would like to see that road closed so we can keep that traffic that comes from the new neighborhood from entering our street. So I'm in favor.
Good, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this request? All right, is there anyone who would wishing to speak in opposition to the request? All righty. I declare the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion to approve by Vice Chair Wisenhunt to close, second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of January 5th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Apologize. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for the public session?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have any calls, but we have 4 speaker cards.
All right, thank you.
Our first speaker is Peter Jennings. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Board. Thank you for allowing us to speak here. Peter Jennings, 284 Flintshire Road, Winston-Salem. That's Old Sherwood Forest, for those that have lived here long enough. I hope you can hear me through my mask. Is that all right?
Gotcha.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners and attendees. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this meeting. For many of us that typically donate and support those that cannot speak for themselves, the stray animals in our community. On January 6th, I wrote in Nextdoor, which is the local community app, an opinion that received around 400 passionate responses. It was in response to the Winston-Salem Journal article about the Forsyth Humane Society, FHS, not accepting Forsyth County's final offer of $1.2 million to continue to run the shelter off University Boulevard. I want to say that it was nice of the Forsyth County Commissioners to offer that amount, especially since it was roughly 3 times the amount that the FHS was being paid. I do wonder now why the president, CEO of FHS, opted to let the commissioners know about their intentions to stop operating the University Boulevard shelter in October of 2022, well after the 2023 county budget was already approved. But after talking with concerned citizens, many volunteers, and past FHS employees, I now understand so much more. I believe there may not be any more bargaining between the county and FHS, that we are all at an impasse. As Forsyth County moves forward, taking the University Boulevard shelter back over, it looks to hire a director. It is our hope that the board will stay with the $1.2 million budget you offered FHS for 2023 and allow the shelter to show the money will be well spent. They will not only need a director, but employees, foster coordinator, head vet, and transfer manager, if they truly want to keep the save rate up around 70+%. They will need space for quarantine kennels for dogs, kennel cough, Pavro, and URI for cats. Of the 400+ people who responded to my original post, I believe that most will support Forsyth County with donations. Some also said that they would like to volunteer. The animals really do need our help as they have no means to help themselves. We must be the voice of those who cannot speak for themselves. Once a donation funnel is set up, like using Forever Friends or other 501c3 companies, everyone should please consider donating. The results in a year could very well affect all of us here in different ways. Even though the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners is not in the animal rescue business, you can certainly use your influence to make this a community success story. If not, I can say that if the save rate isn't maintained, it will influence how I vote in the future elections, and I suspect all of the people I have been in contact with would feel the same way. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated." Thank you again for allowing me to talk about a subject near and dear to many citizens here in Forsyth County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Destiny Shores, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Destiny Shores. My address is 2905 Windy Ridge Drive, Winston-Salem, 27127. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I also wanted to come here and speak on the issue that has been weighing heavily on my heart, and I believe the hearts of many others in the community, and that is the termination of the contract for Forsyth Humane Society and the county that is set to end March 31st, 2023. Firstly, I would like to express my gratitude to the commissioners for your efforts to salvage the contract with Forsyth Humane Society. Honestly, the request to terminate the contract seemed to be completely unexpected, and I feel that you made a respectable effort to offer roughly 3 times the original agreement on the contract, which makes me feel that we have people in leadership who are really trying their best, and I want to say thank you for that. Unfortunately, it seems that the county is taking steps to take over the shelter, which in the past has reported only a 30% save rate. The Forsyth Humane Society has been able to raise that rate to approximately 80% over the years. And I believe with the right resources, the shelter would be capable of maintaining that rate and possibly even improving it, dare I say. I would like to propose that the initial counteroffer of $1.2 million from the county still be utilized to fund the Forsyth County Animal Shelter. The $1.2 million in funds would allow for a full-time veterinarian on staff, heartworm treatments for incoming animals, food and supplies, spay and neuter, and could also use to assist the adoption of foster costs. I feel that this issue is a priority in our community right now, and I feel that we have the funds necessary to create a safe place for these animals. The county shelter doesn't have to be the graveyard that it used to be, but we have to take action if we want to create a better reality for these animals. As economic hardships are expected to rise across the country, I expect that more animals will be surrendered to the shelters. Many of these animals are already house-trained and socialized, which makes them great candidates for fostering and adoption, and it would be a very real shame to put these animals down when they are perfectly healthy. I understand that the commissioners are probably trying to plan for future budgets, but I feel that the $1.2 million offer would not have been made if the funds weren't available. I truly believe that we have an opportunity here to address a real social issue and move the shelter and the community in a progressive direction rather than backwards. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Sinaviva, please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
My name is John Senaviva, and I live at 415 Marshall View Court, which is off South Marshall Street. I've been living there for about 3.5 years. I moved there from Louisville, so I'm a long-term county resident. I am a professor of practice in the Department of Management at UNCG, and that business experience that I have, I think, I would like to start by saying I applaud you all for the decision to initially combine your efforts with the Forsyth County Humane Society. It's a visionary decision. But we stand here at the crossroads of a new contract. And I think the decision to go to a 5-year contract is extremely good because it gives everybody the opportunity to plan over time. The concern I have is that the amount of money that you've offered is well short of what it's costing to operate that university facility, costing the Forsyth County Humane Society well short of that, almost $800,000 short of that. So, let's not move backwards. This thing is working, and what I would like to encourage you to do is to increase the offer from 1.2 million to 1.5 million, if possible, and the Humane Society would still be in a position where they'd have to be bridging the gap with their fundraising and other efforts. I think that a county that commits itself to a no-kill agenda as it relates to dogs and cats is a county with heart. And I think that's what we like to think of, the residents of Forsyth County like to think of Forsyth County. It's a county with a heart. And, and I can speak from personal experience because 11 years ago, I was the lucky recipient of adopted a dog that was had parvo, and so it was heading to be killed. And for a mere $97 more, roughly $100 more, we were able to save his life. And so we have this wonderful dog. May I approach? You
can actually put it on the overhead Elmo if you want to on that.
To your right. Okay.
Yeah, that'll make it a little
Back to-
easier, I believe.
Chantel can help.
So we get to see your.
Is that working? So that's Freckles, and Freckles was born with parvo. And the first treatment didn't work, but the Humane Society pushed and found a veterinarian that would do it, that did it a second time, and the dog survived. And so now we've had that dog for 11 years, and he's given us, my wife and I, and my 8 grandchildren, 3 of whom are adopted, an enormous amount of pleasure. And who you're looking at there is my youngest grandson, who's 2.5 years old, and he's adopted. So I thank you for the partnership. I would just like to encourage you to make it a little less onerous for the folks at the Forsyth Humane Society to live up to their commitment not to kill any viable animals. Now, we don't agree with, I'm also the president of the Tanner's Park Homeowners Association, 52 homes. We don't agree on much. But one of the things we agree on is we all love our pets. And every viable pet, every viable animal should be a pet someplace. So thank you very much for your time, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Beverly Mottershed. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Beverly Mottershed, 1156 Sequoia Drive in Louisville. And I'm just here to reiterate what you've already heard. We understand that it's too late, that the severance is done, that we can't compromise on either one of these. You're either going to go with one or the other. And since animal control is the one that's the intake, that's the one that we're looking at. And I don't know if there's how this is set up or how all this works, but it seems to me like you could have, you have management on one side. Is there not like a volunteer steering committee or something? Because there's a lot of ways to raise money for this. I just don't understand why we're here. The other thing is dog tags. What happened to dog tags? That was an income. I don't know why we dropped that income. Apparently, asking volunteers to get involved and help out is not something that I have seen. So I'm volunteering for any of these administrative positions. I just cannot work with animals that are going to die. So, from the Nextdoor app, we've gotten a lot of good ideas. I mean, there's a lot of good things we could do to raise money. Going back with the dog tags, I think advertising really works. I mean, a billboard once a month saying, don't breed dogs. I mean, we need somebody clever to say something, but, you know, the issues that we have with excess animals, it doesn't, advertising works. I mean, they sell Fords. That's all I really have to say, is that I agree with Peter and with, her name starts with a D. I just wish you would reconsider how we operate the Humane Society part of it, not the Humane Society, the animal control part of it. We certainly don't want to see 6,500 animals dying every year. It would be nice if we had some kind of accountability adopted out. How many are sent to rescue? How many are euthanized? An informed society is a good society. I think we need to know that. And I know you guys are spending money for education, and I promote education as well, but I also promote the animal control. Again, I'm willing to volunteer for administrative positions. I've already stated that in a letter. So my suggestion is maybe a steering committee that works with the animal control, that kind of presents ideas, takes information, maybe reports back to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. I think we are ready, Mr. Manager, to actually continue with the remainder of the agenda and consider our items of business.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, board members and staff and guests. We do have some business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed these at least twice in briefing sessions and hopefully have answered all your questions. So I'll go ahead and dive into the agenda. You've got two items related to the American Recovery Plan Act funding. Item 4 is a resolution approving an execution of an agreement with Cancer Services Incorporated. It provides financial assistance to cancer patients with American Rescue Plan Act funds. You've got an associated budget ordinance amendment. This will provide $55,000 to serve 180 clients, 37 additional or new clients, really to meet their unmet treatment needs.
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 5 is also an ARPA item. It's a resolution approving Forsyth County's General Services request for health campus improvements with American Rescue Plan Act funds. You've got associated budget amendment that appropriates $1,515,000. And these upgrades to the air handling systems and the conditioning systems for DSS Public Health and the annex building. So it's kind of campus-wide improvements there.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You've got one grant-related item. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to apply for and accept if awarded a 2023 Urgent Repair Program funding grant. It's for $132,000. This is the annual kind of regular routine funding that comes through that was not available to us last year but was backfilled with ARPA dollars. This will impact at least 10 low and very low-income households. There's about $12,000 for admin costs.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
You have 3 contract matters. Item 7 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of vaccines from Santa Fe Pasteur Incorporated, and we're using the state of North Carolina contract pricing that would be not to exceed $117,133.94.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
All right. Agenda item 8 is a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to a contract between Forsyth County and Capital Marketing Solutions, LLC, for elections printing services. This will increase that contract to allow us to get a bill paid related to this last election in the amount of $20,000.
Move approval.
Motion approved by by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Resolution awarding and authorizing the execution of a contract for the purchase of printing consumables and toner for Forsyth County General Services, basically for all county departments, because they are served through that. We had a vendor who was not able to fulfill the requirements, so this is the second most responsible vendor that was bid. I believe it was last spring or last summer. It's a 6-month contract with Racix Computer Center, and we will obviously rebid that.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler,
Second.
second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we've got 2 property matters. You've got item 10, a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement to purchase real property located at 3290 and 3230 North Liberty Street. It is the property amount is purchase price is $350,000. There is a 120-day inspection period that we will enter into and potentially move to go ahead and purchase that property.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, please. Dudley, could you explain what we would use that property for, please.
Yeah, Kirby, do you mind coming up and doing a quick run-through on that? That'd be great.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. Commissioner, I appreciate the question. Right now, the thought, and we're going through some planning with the property, but the thought is to use it for open-air parking, and that's for heavy equipment, fleet vehicles, grounds maintenance, storage, and construction supplies.
And it is adjacent, as I drove by it this morning, it is adjacent to the current Linville Center and is really a one-time opportunity to be able to expand that. While we might not build future on that site, it would allow us to move some things over so that we could, generations will look back on it and say, y'all need to get that property out of
I just thought it was important for the public to know what the use was, since we received an email thinking that we could put that money towards the Humane Society.
Oh, I appreciate it. It'll be shared between the county, the school system, and the sheriff's office. It'll be a multi-use piece of property that has a lot of utility for those groups.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I've actually answered an email or two that basically said, because of selling part of the airport property to Garner Foods, and basically we ended up with relocating the school district, a lot of dominoes, and so we're going to be putting additional garage space and other things there. So it becomes a very crowded facility, and this does fit very perfectly to get those great big things out of the way, those pieces of equipment, and able to work that. And plus, it does, I think, county manager's comment of the future, particularly in terms of how that area of the county is going to look, will also be improved, so.
Absolutely.
Good. All righty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kirby.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 11 is a resolution declaring certain county-owned personal property surplus and authorizing its disposition by public electronic auction utilizing Liquidity Services Operation LLC. That is our normal routine personal property auctions that we do, and folks are encouraged to express interest.
Move approval.
Second.
Do we have, I didn't hear the motion. Oh, Dan? I thought Dan sneezed. Dave? Motion by Commissioner Plyler, I apologize, but I guess that's the
That's so
same
we get
time
it
that Dan
passed, that's
sneezed. Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we have 5 tax matters. I believe you can take items 12, 13, 14, and 15 together. They are resolutions approving refunds by the tax assessor and collector in the amount of $2,517.22, $14,755.01 out of the North Carolina Vehicle Tax System, $18,150.85 out of the North Carolina Vehicle Tax System, and then $41,065.65 that were basically approved by the Board of Equalization and Review.
Move approval.
A motion by both Commissioner Plyler and Bessie, and second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, item 16 is the pretty routine resolution extending the 2023 tax listing period that will extend it to mid-February.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we have 4 added items. Obviously, the last one of those is really introduction of the items for the February 2nd meeting, which is really our briefing of those items to be reviewed. So I'll go ahead and dive in. Item 17 is a resolution authorizing an increase to the project contingency for the corporate hangars project at Smith Reynolds Airport. There's a lot of discussion last week. What is left in this is $120,000 to shift that apron to cut from asphalt to concrete, and we will go back out and bid the drainage work down there in the parking lot.
Move approval.
Okay.
Second.
Motion, yeah, we get a motion approved by Commissioner Plyler, second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. County Manager, could you explain to the public, after the discussion we had previously, why we had to shift that?
Yeah, Mark, you want to come up in case I missed something? Would be great. Or Gordon. Yeah.
The short answer is that what was brought to you last Thursday included approximately $900,000 change order, and upon further review of the project, It was not within the scope of the original project. It was an extensive replacement of a drain on a different parcel of land than where the hangars are being built. So we concluded that it should more properly be bid out as a separate project.
So the upshot is we are still going to try to get that problematic drain replaced, but we couldn't legally do it through the route that was originally contemplated.
That's correct.
Thank you. I had understood that from previous briefings. I just wanted to make sure anyone who's been following the issue understood why. Thank you.
Boy, I'm glad I deferred to you on that one, so good. All right. All right. Did we get a vote on that?
Yes, we did. Oh, no, we have. You're right. We just had discussion. I apologize.
I move approval.
All right.
Second.
I think we did the motion and approval. We did it already. I apologize. We had discussion, ready to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right.
Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 18 is a resolution authorizing execution of a contract with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated. This is going to provide move management services for the new courthouse project. As you know, it's a very extensive, involved, complex move that's going to require a lot of coordination. It'll be fast, but it's going to be a lot of the upfront work is going to have to be planned well, and so it's going to take a lot of effort around that. This is a $170,000 contract with Stantec Consulting around that.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Wizenhunt, second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Agenda item 19 is a resolution selecting and authorizing execution of a contract with McKissick Associates PC to provide professional architectural services for the Horizons Park Administration building renovation. This is one of the last projects that was actually in that 2016 bond referenda around the parks piece of things. There are other things at Horizons Park that were also in that, but this is basically design services, a contract not to exceed $77,920.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Commissioner Plyler.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Second by Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right. And so the last item is where we just transition into the introduction of the items for consideration for the February 2nd, 2023 meeting. And there are two public hearings on that, so Chris Murphy's going to come up and brief that. Since we got to it fairly quickly, unless we need a quick bathroom break or anything, we'll just go straight into this. If this runs long, we can obviously.
No, but Mr. Manager, I hope the public realizes that the voting section is over. This is just for our next meeting.
Right.
We will not be voting on these items.
I think it would be proper to adjourn the meeting and open the briefing.
Yeah, I thought that's what we did last week. Well, how about a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Got a motion by Commissioner Linville, second by Commissioner Plyler. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned, and now we're starting the briefing session, and we're going to hear from Chris Murphy about the two public hearings.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of County Commissioners. Welcome, Commissioner Bessie and Commissioner Woodbury. My name is Chris Murphy, Planning and Development Services Director for the city and the county. The request before you, this is F-1625. It's a request of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education to rezone a 45.19 acre site located on the east side of Fraternity Church Road and Hope Church Road intersection. The request is to rezone from general use RS9 to general use IP, institutional, and public zoning. This is a subject property highlighted on the Legacy Growth Management Area map. It's located within the GMA3 Suburban Neighborhoods Growth Management Area. They're on off of South Stratford Road. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. Again, they're located South Stratford Road and Fraternity Church Road area. They're on the southwest side of Forsyth County. Same subject property highlighted, outlined in yellow on the county's aerial photography. Again, you see it's currently developed with both a middle school and an elementary school. Now, this is looking east into the site from the traffic circle at Fraternity Church Road and Hope Church Road. This is the area plan. This is the Southwest Suburban Area Plan update, which was adopted by the commissioners back in 2015. You see the subject property there labeled with the case number. The area plan recognizes it as institutional and public land use, and therefore the request to go from RS9 to IP is consistent with the area plan recommendation. The request is consistent with the recommendations of the area plan and also with Legacy 2030. There are no anticipated traffic impacts associated with this request. The proposed district is compatible with the existing land use and the surrounding land use pattern. This was heard by the Planning Board at their December 8th, 2022 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Bessie.
I don't have any problem with the proposed change. I'm just curious as to why the school board is bringing it forward now. Is this just a routine cleanup matter, or is there a anticipated addition to the facilities that would be problematic under current zoning?
That question is probably best left to the petitioner whenever they bring it forward, since it is a general use request. It is my understanding that their PTO would like to, or whatever the organization is called, sometimes it's PTA, sometimes it's PTO. It's my understanding that they would like to install an electronic message board sign, and such is not allowed in RS zoning, but is an institutional and public zoning. So it's my understanding that's the impetus behind the school system's request.
All right, thank you.
Very similar to the Moravian Church on Oliver
Correct.
Road that we had probably just a month or so
Couple months ago. Yes, sir.
Same kind of issue, kind of not compatible with because they had a residential zoning, I think, on a parking lot.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. That makes perfectly good sense.
If there are no other questions, we can transition to the second public hearing item, which will be, let's see, minimize there, pull this back up, stop sharing, share again. Just did 25, I'm going to do 24 since they're in here non-numerical order. This is a request. It's case F1624. It's the petitioners are the EM Light Heirs. This is a 15.5 acre site on the east side of Old Hollow Road across from Old 66 Circle. This is located just on the edge of the town of Walkertown, but it is within Forsyth County's jurisdiction. The request is for a special use rezoning from RS20 to RM8S, multifamily 8 units per acre. This is the subject property shown on the Legacy Countywide Growth Management Area Plan. You notice it is located within GMA4, Future Growth Area. It is also located on the edge of the Walkertown Activity Center there along Old Hollow and Reedsville Road, 158. This is the location map, subject property highlighted in yellow. You notice the HBS and GBS zoning to the northwest, and then to the west across 66, and then you'll notice the current RS20 zoning and the surrounding RS20 zoning around the subject property. This is the subject property outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial imagery. Since this time, one of those two parcels to the northwest has developed for Mavis Auto and Tire. And it's my understanding that the other parcel is in the process of going through the final development plan approval process with the town of Walkertown, I believe, for a car wash. Also, some of those lots across, directly to the west across 66 on the other side have developed since the last round of aerial imagery that we have, which I believe was from 2018. So that aerial imagery is 5 years old. You notice the residential pattern to the east and northeast, and then also the agricultural use of some of that land. But again, this is a primarily wooded lot, undeveloped. This is the subject property shown, the Walkertown Area Plan Update, which was adopted by both the town of Walkertown and the commissioners back in 2014. It recognizes the single-family nature of the property and does not recommend a change under the area plan recommendation, but I'll get to a little bit about that in a second. This is looking northwest along Old Hollow Road. The subject property is on the right. You see in the background there, that is the Mavis Tire building. And there is, at this point, a vacant property between the subject property, but again, it is in the process of becoming developed as well. This is looking north on the existing access easement. There's an access easement that crosses this property that goes and serves those residential properties back to the northeast of the subject property. Just to remind you, those homes there shown on the east side of the subject property, that access easement serves those homes. This is looking south on Old Hollow Road. The subject property is on the left. This is the site plan. It is, surprise, surprise, 100 units because it's one way in, one way out, and that deals with fire department and the general statute requiring a second means of ingress and egress. And I will point out there is a private lift station on this that will pump directly into, essentially have to pump it back out to Old Hollow Road, cross Old Hollow Road, but it will get into the city-county utility public system, but there will be a private lift station proposed for this development. And of course, we've had that discussion several times over the last 6 months. This is what the proposed townhomes would look like, a rendering of those. I don't think they'll have red windows, but I think that's just to help it stand out a little bit more. In summary, this proposal does provide an ideal land use transition between the US 158 North Carolina 66 Activity Center and the nearby single-family uses further to the east. You have the developed commercial area, and you have some multifamily, 3-story, 4-story kind of walk-up type units. These townhomes will serve as a good transition. It's not noted here, but again, keep in mind whenever you do have public sewer available, GMA4 land use recommendations are applicable. GMA4 becomes GMA3 when public sewer is available. Staff believes that this is a valid request, a good request as a transitional land use to feather back from the more intense commercial and 3-story walk-up type of land uses that we have to more of a attached single-family product to the single-family transition as you head from west to east along Old Hollow Road. Again, this request will provide additional housing close to goods and services in a walkable environment with the activity center there at 158 and NC 66. The developer is proposing an additional buffer yard along Old Hollow Road and to that private easement to lessen the visual impact of the development on traffic and those single-family homes. This was heard by the Planning Board at their December 8th, 2022 public hearing. There were 2 speakers in opposition. One of the surrounding property owners that actually owns the easement that goes to those single-family homes isn't 100% opposed to this, but does have concerns related to perhaps property values and just the concern of the use of his driveway and just making sure that it doesn't become impacted. The other person in opposition was the town manager from the town of Walkertown who came and spoke and provided the input from some of his council members. Following the discussion, the Planning Board did vote 7-1 to recommend approval of this request to the commissioners, and the site plan does meet UDO requirements. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Go back to the one where it shows the right there.
Okay.
The one coming straight in to 66. That's going to be the entrance.
Yes, sir.
Does this call for a turn lane?
NCDOT in their review has requested both the installation of a right turn, if you're heading northwest on 66, a right turn lane into the project, and if you're traveling to the southeast, a left turn lane into the subject property. So traffic should still be able to flow in both directions on 66, even if someone is waiting to turn left into the project or turning right. There should not, there are turn lanes proposed and required.
The turn lane is required then?
And it's a condition of approval in your packet.
And the easement up there where it exists now, it's other than the people that has access to it's only one be using that?
Correct. There is no change to the access easement.
Where the access is there, does the DOT determine where it will be?
They have reviewed the plan, and where the proposed access point is where they say it needs to be. Now, they will have to get the driveway permit, and, it could change a little bit one way or the other if they get out to the field, but it's not going to change from this location to directly adjacent to the access easement or the southeast edge of the property. It should remain basically where it's
either
shown.
the roadway there is running north and south, it's just not a good, I guess that's about the best they can do, because it's just not a good place for a entrance. So that's, but if the DOT, if they making a call on it, then.
They are, and again, in your packet under the conditions of approval, there is a requirement prior to the issuance of grading permit. They have to get the NCDOT driveway permit, and it says the requirements for the NCDOT driveway permit will include but are not limited to, and one of those bullets is the installation of left and right turn lanes per NCDOT comments.
Well, just for observation and information, it's it's what it is. The topo's there. It's a hill where the entrance is. There's not a steep hill, but a long grade. And I suspect the reason, well, I don't know. It's not good to suspect what others are thinking. But on the traffic, from where the property line is, the southern property line, starting about 4 o'clock in the evening, traffic backs up, sometimes half a mile further than that. And that's almost a mile from the traffic light at 66 and 158. So I can't change any of that. I will say that I saw something on the news, saw something for you too, Mr. Manager. First, I'll talk about a lot of development, and I'm not speaking just to this one, this is a broader view. A lot of development occurs everywhere, and it was showing, the news was showing something in sort of the far west, don't recall which state it was, but it was kind of desert land. Well, they'd been getting water from a municipality, I don't know how far away it was. Well, they began to have water problems too, so they cut the water off to this developed area, and might not have been a good place to do building in a desert area, but things goes on anyway. So I still see your electric car is progressing. So have you decided what kind you're going to get? I'm not going to. I'm just going to stay on you about it, and then I'll take some of the criticism too when we get some of those things.
Right. So we are still working on it. It's actually, I talked to the city manager this morning because they had bought a whole bunch of electric police cars, and I said, "Well, do you have them yet?" And he said, "No, because everything's on back order, the whole supply chain issue." So anyway, those will be in front of you here in the next couple of weeks, and I hope I can live through it. So.
Well, some of this electric green stuff is eventually going to surprise me, I guess. They're making some tractors now.
Electric tractors. Good.
Electric.
They are rich.
I'll keep you informed on all I see on the news about the electric vehicles.
More power to you.
Can I ask a question about this issue? What was the opposition from, you said the Walkertown manager spoke, and was he representing a majority of the Walkertown board?
I hate to hazard a guess. He didn't have anything in writing. It's my understanding that one of the members of the board, I think, is actually a petitioner in this, I think, as a light air, but I'm not 100% sure. So I can't speak. I don't have anything in writing that shows any type of a vote. It's my understanding that the concerns dealt with the fact that it wasn't wholly consistent with the area plan, and that the area plan recommends single family residential, and that's what they would like for it to be. The other thing that it did cite is traffic, and Commissioner Linville did bring up the traffic situation at 158, 60, and 66, and it is an issue at certain times of the day. There is a project on the long-range transportation plan, whether or not it's funded, and in the TIP, I'm not 100% sure. This project is built to accommodate that. I'm not sure that they're actually doing a right-of-way dedication, because there are some ambiguities in the legality of NCDOT requiring that as a condition of approval for a driveway permit, but they do have their site set up where it's not going to impact it if NCDOT has to come in and take the right of way. But again, I'm not sure what the timing is on that road project, but those were the two concerns. It was really dealing with traffic and dealing with the fact that it wasn't consistent with the area plan.
Can you go back to the picture that shows the actual roadways and so forth?
This one, or?
Yeah, that's fine. Where is Reedsville? Is Reedsville Road, is that?
It's right here.
158, I see back in there. So it actually is, I know exactly where it is. I actually drove by there today on the way to John Deere.
You got a good shot on one of the buildings, the back part of one of the shopping centers, a little bit right there. That's back part of one of them.
To quote your chairman of the county zoning board of adjustment, that intersection is commonly known as Dead Man Crossing. That's what a lot of people refer to it before it was signalized. And even with the signal, there have still continued to be accidents there. But again, there's a recognition that there's a traffic issue there, but this isn't going to exacerbate it. When you look at the units and the traffic count, it's actually it's close to even as far as the existing zoning and the trip generation of that and this. I mean, there might be a couple hundred difference, but in the grand scheme of a large project and a large traffic issue, that's not going to have a negative impact.
And the distance from that entrance to Reedsville Road, 158, looks like it may be a little further than I was thinking.
Yeah, I would say it's probably a quarter to a half mile, probably, if you actually get to the midpoint of that. I have not done the measurement. I'm not sure what the staff report says, but I'll have that. I'll provide that as a part of my presentation at the next briefing, what that distance is.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the traffic backups at that intersection. I've been more stuck heading east and getting stopped there always, but not as much heading west. Just trying to picture that. And it looks like a lot of the traffic orientation probably probably is going to be heading west back into the Walkertown area versus, although there are subdivisions, there's not a bunch of subdivisions off of Old Hollow Road.
I mean, again, I'm not sure what the distribution would show, and I know that there are a lot of folks from Kernersville that come to the shopping center and go, back and forth. So, I mean, again, I'm not sure exactly where the folks that would live here would orient, whether it would be to the west and then back towards Winston, or whether it would be towards Kernersville. It's kind of a good geographic location, kind of in the middle of both.
Got it. Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, sir. Thanks. It looked like in that photograph that the property border there, that sign, is that Welcome to Walkertown sign?
That is the municipal limit for the town of Walkertown. Literally, it is adjacent to the subject property.
And do you know whether Walkertown was made aware of the zoning request because it is a property owner within the notification zone, or whether they just heard through the grapevine? Or do we have a courtesy notice process to adjoining jurisdictions?
The latter. we do reach out generally speaking, we reach out to the jurisdiction if it's, I won't say even adjacent, if it's close to them. We generally reach out if they have a planner, we'll let them know, or if they don't, we let the town manager know. And in this case, Walkertown's a little different than basically the county has zoning authority for all of the small towns within Forsyth County except for Kernersville, Louisville, Clemens, and Walkertown. Walkertown has its own zoning jurisdiction and authority, but we actually serve as their staff. So one of our members of staff actually works closely with Walkertown. So whenever this came in, he reached out to let the town manager know that we had this, and then they discussed it with their council. And again, I'm making an assumption given the name that one of their council members is part of the petitioners. But if not, anyway, they sent a letter back to us with their concerns and also showed up and spoke.
Thank you. I mean, if we don't have it as a requirement, I think it's a good idea that we do it. We need to hear from impacted municipalities when they're very close to the rezoning territory. We don't have to do what they request, but we need to hear from them. All right, thank you.
I think you already do that, don't you?
Yes, yeah, we do. There's not anything formally in the UDO that requires that, but that's, I mean, kind of that.
Yeah.
The small towns will generally reach out to us if they have something on their border, and then we likewise reach out to them.
Are they going to connect to the sewer?
Yeah, there'll be a private lift station internal to this development, but it will pump out and get into the city-county utility system once it gets to gravity, which I think is on the other side of 66. All right. Well, if nothing else, I'll brief this again next week, and I'll have an answer on the distance from the intersection to that driveway.
About a half mile, Mr. Martin, but that's not official. I believe Chris will bring the official distance.
Mr. Chairman, before we go to the next resolution, could we take a 5-minute break?
Good. 5-minute break.
Thank you.
We've lost a couple, but we'll see if we can.
Well, the people that count, Mr. Chairman, are here.
Okay, I'm with you.
That's right.
I hear you, I hear you.
Here he comes.
Yeah, I'll let Commissioner Linville get seated. All righty, so the rest of the agenda items have been submitted by departments for consideration on the February 2nd agenda. They are working on the presentations that they will do next Thursday, but I'll just quickly introduce what you might see or what you will see next Thursday. Item 3 is a resolution adopting the revised rules of procedure for Forsyth County Board of Commissioners meeting. I think our chairman and our clerk really have been working on this in an effort to mirror, kind of to update the rules of procedure, which were adopted a year or so ago, sometime thereabouts. There have been a few minor changes, so we needed to correct that, and then really just to reflect kind of the current practice. Mr. Chairman, do you want to add anything to that?
It's just once we started with the item review and not conducting a full briefing, it defines the full briefing as that. It kind of goes, it has several definitional issues. So, yeah, spend a little bit of time. I just appreciate you reading it, and I think I think it reflects what we're doing now.
And so I believe Gordon's going to take a look at it, add his legal ease and his review to that. The only thing I saw that I thought needed a little, it talks about rezonings, briefing them fully. Actually, what we try to do is anything that requires a public hearing, we do the full reviews, and sometimes most times those are land use or rezoning type issues, but sometimes they're like this road renaming or even some oddball things that require that. But the idea with that is twice you'll say to the public, there's a public hearing, and encourage them to come out for that. So that's sort of the purpose of that. So, all right, so Gordon will get his review, and then we'll finalize that and make sure that's a part of the formal agenda when you get it next week. You've got approval of the minutes of the meeting we just had. Those will be forthcoming. You've got one budget finance item. It is an amendment to the 2016 Schools Capital Projects Ordinance for the new commissioners. What that is when the board does a bond referendum, there are projects listed in that bond referendum, and the school board will periodically bring you sort of drawdowns on those bond issues as we go. That's also the tool we use to track, to make sure that the school board's tracking with the projects that when the community came to vote and we talked about the projects that were part of that's how we sort of track that. And so the budget office will bring you what they anticipate doing, and when you get particularly this far away from sort of when the bond issue was, there's inflation and other impacts start becoming kind of fully known. So that's what that is.
If I may ask, are there any major changes that you anticipate being a part of this? Obviously they're bringing it to you, and there are changes, and so I'll leave it to you to decide if they're major or not. But because y'all may view that as more significant than I. But it is where they've made progress, bringing projects to you. They need a drawdown on it, and this would actually take care of that. So, yep. All right. We have one grant item. It's a pretty straightforward grant from the National Environmental Health Association for the Department of Public Health, and you got an associated budget ordinance amendment with that, and that was for Environmental Health Division Food and Lodging support. You've got, I think there were 4 contracts that are in front of you. One's an interlocal agreement with the Board of Education for the Be Healthy School Kids program, so you'll learn a little bit about what that program's all about. I don't think there's any real financial implications to that. That's more the public health, just doing business with the schools, but it does require an interlocal agreement. And for the new commissioners, interlocal agreements are one of those things that require board approval in North Carolina. The manager's office doesn't have any ability to sign a contract interlocally, but you do, and it does require board action. Item 8, we've been working on for quite a while. Sometimes you hear complaints that folks who are out at Tanglewood Park Campground don't have good Wi-Fi. That's probably the only complaint we get.
And people love that that place so much that it's kind of one to, okay, but it's a great place. Just you go camping, you get away from the Wi-Fi. I don't know, but anyway, we have responded to that, and so you'll hear that where staff's done some work to come up. There are 4 or 5 different ways to make that happen. So we're making a recommendation to you on that. Item 9, we've been working on the FC Connects system that is a major systems change where all our administrative systems are going to what they call a enterprise resource kind of management program. So it becomes centralized. For the new commissioners, we had this long history of amazing MIS staff who wrote code to build these systems. A couple of years ago, we sold our tax system was a creation we had, but we had built it ourselves. We were the only ones using it. We made a strategic decision, which I think was a good one, to actually piggyback on the state's PTS system. We actually sold our intellectual property that our programmers had developed around the appraisal system, and to be honest with you, John Burgess was a lot of the brainchild behind that system. Sold that, I think at the end of we had got several $100,000 in in royalties from intellectual property that was sold for that. But we have gone to a centralized system for the administrative stuff, and there is going to be kind of a shift to some consultative services as we make that transition. We need to do that well, and I would not be honest with you if I said that transition's been easy. It's a hard transition to make, and staff's done amazing work and stuck with it, and we are in that transition right now.
Dudley, I do have a question, if you don't mind, Chairman. I thought that we were going to have more information about the consulting services, and I'm not sure if it was this company or not. They were supposed to be bidding that out and bringing it back to us. Now that I remember, I think we were thinking about maybe a year's contract, 2 years, or what was that going to look like?
Yeah, we are still at a place, because we're in the transition, that we need Sierra Cedar is the company that has been doing they call them integrators. Right. Yeah, and so we're still in that. What that looks like in the future once we get the system in place is, I think, where we are with that. But you'll hear more about this. We can certainly talk to kind of where we are and what the driver is behind this.
We can talk about it offline, but I just I'll talk to you about that a little later. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then item 10, of course, I think last year's budget was dominated by inflation, labor market challenges, and supply chain issues, and pickleball. And so we're going to bring to you the pickleball improvements at Joni Moser, which we've been working on for quite some time. Actually bid them. They came in a little high. Rebid it, came in less. And so I think staff's got a good presentation to give you around that project.
Dudley, just a quick question. Joni Moser is the name for the one just outside Louisville, yes?
Yes, sir.
As you go through, and this may be the original name, but in the city, as they went through and they would name different parks that had geographic names, like Reynolds Park,
right.
With an honorary, keeping up with what the new name for which one sometimes got.
Yes, it's tricky. So we'll give you the history next Thursday on the naming of Joni Moser. I believe it was for some of the family that donated the property, but
thank you.
A young lady got into an accident and died in an accident, and the family donated the property in her name, and then it became a park.
Yeah, make that part of the presentation. I think that'll be helpful to remind us all of that. We do it next week. Have 3 items related to property tax matters, and so those will be there for you. Some of them are large, so we may get John to dive into those a little bit. And then we've got, I know the chairman is sort of the diplomatic liaison on the committee appointment summary for commissioners, and I know there's been conversations about that, but is there anything we want to say, Madam Clerk or Chairman, about a few holes to fill, I think, so. So if you have interest, make sure to let Chairman know or Ashley, and then if we've got holes to fill, we may be reaching out as we head into Thursday to make sure we get all those appointments done.
Well, I think we're kind of done.
Done, okay.
Actually, all of you, with the exception, in fact, I'm going to talk to Dave some tomorrow about that very issue, but everybody else, we've got feedback and got the lists, and we're in pretty good shape.
All right, very, very good. All right, and then contribution-based benefit report, which is just that report. But other than that, that is what you'll hear in a lot more detail next Thursday. And probably we'll have a few discussion items that kind of come along with the agenda. I know we're still working to try to finalize the winter work session. If anybody has any ideas or things that you want to devote some of that winter work session time to, let us know, but we are working on what I had presented last Thursday. And there's probably something else that I can't think about right now, but anyway. So that's it, Mr. Chairman. Anything else?
We're good.
Move we adjourn.
We're adjourned. Motion, second, adjourn.
That was quick.